Everyone, my name is Allison and I will be presenting my unit plan today. This is going to be my fourth unit this year. It is called Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and it is a 7-week unit. The 4 essential questions that I have, the first one, it starts with why did the Articles of Confederation fail, which is basically just kind of a way to ground the kids in what happened directly after the Revolution, which is the unit previously. They're going to talk about the kind of lack of centralized government that was created and talk about some of the problems that came from that. And then we move on to week 2, where we bring in the Constitution. The kids are going to compare and contrast them, work on some of their evidence citing skills, which I will show later in the video. Then we go to the third part of the unit, which I'm most excited about, week 3. It's a really engaging unit where the kids are going to talk about the Bill of Rights. They're going to read the Bill of Rights, and then we're going to I'm bringing in a bunch of kind of outside sources that are more contemporary, so the kids can see the ways that the Bill of Rights matters now, and look at some like figures that are kind of big, like Colin Kaepernick, and just kind of identify why this impacts them and why they should care about it. And then finally at the end, the last 3 weeks, are just going to be a very intensive DBQ assignment that was provided by my department. The question is, how did the Constitution guard against tyrannical government? And so it'll start with, we'll go down and actually look at that right now. So once the kids have kind of gotten all the background information we need, we're just going to jump directly into the different documents. The kids are going to practice summarizing each document, whether it's primary or secondary. Here, we'll take a quick look at some of them. This is document D. This is one of the documents, and basically first the kids will have to go through and they will summarize these 2 articles from the Constitution, and then they'll go through and answer these questions. It'll likely be done in a think, pair, share way, so that the kids are able to communicate with their partners as well as think independently. And that'll be the same for all of the other documents that we'll be using in the DBQ, which is kind of the most intensive writing section of the unit. But in addition to that, just taking a step back, that'll be the unit assessment. In addition to kind of formative assessments that I'll be using throughout the unit with exit tickets, and then I'll kind of do now in KWL charts as pre-formative assessments so that I can kind of see where the kids are at and make sure that I'm adapting my instruction to whatever that specific class's kind of need is. And then for accommodations for my unit, I'm going to have a lot of sentence starters. I'll have edited readings with different bolding, underlining, etc. It'll kind of help students get in the right direction. And then I also do heterogeneous grouping for their desk partners, and as well as when I have them in groups. Here's the rubric that I'll be using for most of the readings that the kids have. It's adapted for shorter assignments, but for the DBQ, this is a modified SBAC rubric that my department made. We went through each of these sections: organization, purpose, evidence, elaboration, and conventions, and we attached it to Common Core standards. So that way we can actually input it into like this standards-based grading tool called Illuminate that my district uses, and we're able to see the kind of growth the kids are experiencing and also see where there's gaping pieces of knowledge. For instance, in the last DBQ my kids did, we really struggle with citations. The kids know what evidence is, they know how to use it, but they're not telling me where they got it. So that's going to be a huge focus this unit as well. For multimedia engagement, I have videos, I have pictures, as well as PowerPoints throughout the unit. Always, kids have a PowerPoint. Instead of a Socratic seminar, I'll be doing a debate with the kids, which I'm excited about. It's kind of going to be an anti-federalist, federalist situation where they're going to debate about the utility of the Constitution, whether it's good or bad. And then here we have the thing I mentioned earlier, the research task, where students are going to research Colin Kaepernick's freedom of speech controversy, and they're going to take a position and write a short response about what they feel the Bill of Rights does for his situation. Here's a list of the primary and secondary sources I used. I already showed you some of the DBQ stuff, so I'll just show, here's a little revised U.S. Constitution Confederation assignment the kids are going to do. This is taken from Newsela. It's kind of the Lexile is lowered so the kids aren't totally overwhelmed by the Constitution language, and I have some important stuff underlined. Basically, we'll read this together. We'll do the first couple sections together, and the kids will read and then answer questions, just kind of trying to pull out similarities and differences. This will be done in the second week of the unit. And then here's something that I'm super excited about. The kids are always asking me about Trump. They're always like, what's up with Trump? Like, I hate him. He sucks. He looks like an orange and an orangutan. And so I really want to bring in some stuff about Trump to kind of further spike the engagement of the students. So this is an article about how the different amendments in the Constitution, kind of how Trump interacts with them, as well as separation of powers, etc. So this is kind of a way to ground the very old documents we'll be using in the present and kind of hopefully inspire the kids to kind of take more ownership over the importance of history and just get more engaged. Because my whole philosophy for my history course is everything matters, history is important, it still affects us now. And then moving on to more specific units. So here we have the first week where the kids were basically introduced to the Articles of Confederation. The first thing that we did was basically just kind of show them, all right, here is the Articles of Confederation. What is it? Let's talk a little bit about it. They're going to do a full class reading of the revised Articles of Confederation, and they're going to summarize every chunk. So here we have the worksheet. They answer the do now, and they basically go through and summarize all the different chunks of the Articles of Confederation, tell me what they mean. This is kind of like the first reading that we'll do, and then we'll be building on this reading, this Articles of Confederation reading, which will get slowly higher in Lexile throughout the week. Then this week, the kids' exit ticket will be just asking them to say why the Articles of Confederation failed. Oh, this is the wrong day, but that's okay. So basically the exit ticket is why the Articles of Confederation fail, why is it important? And they'll also know that by the end of the week, they're expected to write a one-paragraph response to that question. I'm always hammering it home. Why did the Articles of Confederation fail? Why is it important? At the end of the week, they write their essays here. And then moving on to the next week, we did this on Monday. I thought this went well. This was kind of an introduction to the KWL chart. The kids hadn't done one with me before, so we started, okay, what do you know about the Constitution? So here's the PowerPoint I presented. This was the beginning of the time when they were using tablets, so a lot of my do-nows were just very much like, figure out how to get on the internet. And then I kind of introduced them to what the KW chart is, know, wonder, learn. They think, pair, share for the know and wonder, and then we read an article, which I can pull up as well. They read an article about the U.S. Constitution, answered some questions about it, just kind of get introduced to it. Nothing too heavy. They're going to summarize some of the articles, the more important ones, and then they finish their KWL chart at the end of the week here. So it looks like this one is the Bill of Rights one. It's supposed to be Constitution, but that's an easy change. And they just kind of fill it out here on their tablets, and they save it on their tablets. It's something they keep for themselves. And then here we have the exit ticket, name and explain 3 elements of the Constitution. You must cite evidence. So this was something that the kids are really struggling with. I'm trying to hammer home citing evidence, but right now the integration of content and writing practice is a little much, so it's definitely going to be, we're going to take some time in the coming weeks to just really talk about what citing evidence is. Then at the end of the week, they're expected to write a 3-paragraph essay, 1 paragraph on Articles of Confederation, 1 on Constitution, and 1 on how they're same and different. Here's the worksheet. The day before they write the essay, they're going to fill out this outline, which will actually needs to be edited so that it's more kid-friendly, which was edited to make it more kid-friendly. And then here we have kind of, all right, this is where you write. And basically they're going to go through, they're going to fill all of this out as a class. We're going to review it. We're going to talk about why it's important, and then they'll move on. Here, this day, I'm also doing another KWL chart. Here they have their research task that I mentioned earlier, and then at the end of this week, they're going to talk about why the Bill of Rights is important and connected to themselves. And after that, here we have a cool little gallery walk that I set up for the kids. They're going to get introduced to Congress, President, and the court. They're going to do a little gallery walk. Here's the different stations they're going to have, which I might break up even more just to make sure that there's not too many kids at each one, but they'll have one about the executive. And then they'll have the picture of the seal, and they'll answer some questions about it. And they'll have the legislative, and then the judicial, and each one has the seal, which will be hung up, just give them some pictures, and they'll read about it. It's also kind of edited. Different things are underlined and whatnot, just to kind of help the kids know what they should be paying attention to. And then for the PowerPoint for that one, it basically kind of tries to activate prior knowledge. Okay, why is it going forward? So yeah, tries to activate about primary knowledge, They share with their partners, then we read this together about the 3 branches. I give them a quick little introduction. They look at a picture. I ask the kids what they notice. And then we review gallery walk stations. I have them broken up by seats. And then they have 6 minutes at each gallery station. And at the end of the week, they're expected to list end of the day, they list the 3 branches and then explain the role of each branch in 1 sentence. And so here is the little exit ticket that I have made up for them. They'll basically be, I'll be slicing it in half and then passing it out just to save paper. Just 1 sentence, explain what it is, nothing too complicated, just to make sure the kids were on it that day. And then, yeah, after that, basically they're going to jump right into the background essay for the which is right here. Go through and just kind of, this is an introduction to the DBQ. They're going to get some background, which will also be built on throughout the week before. Moving down here, they summarize the articles, each different document, and then at the end of every day, they use that document to explain how it affected the articles. Here they do thesis statement practice, and then they do the debate, and then they relate it to Trump, do some introduction conclusion practice. Then the next day, it's basically just writing an outline similar to the one they did for the comparison. And they write a rough draft. Then some kids who finish fast will peer at it, and then other kids will finish their rough drafts. And then basically, if I see anything that's really glaring that needs to be taught, we'll do a quick reteach. And then after that, they write their essays. And then it'll take me a couple weeks to grade them, and then we'll go over it together with the rubric. And the kids are going to kind of work on grading themselves, talk about what they can do better. Yeah, so this is my unit, Bill of Rights and the Constitution. I'm super excited about it. So far, the kids have been pretty interested, but I definitely am really looking forward to the opportunity to get to the Bill of Rights section because I think it'll really engage them.